to another episode of the Accountant Success Secrets podcast. I'm Philippa Haynes of Insight 101.
And I'm Mark Lee of Bookmark Lee. On this podcast, we showcase and celebrate successful accountants who've been running their practice for a good few years and who can inspire and encourage other accountants in practice around the UK.
I thought you'd forgotten who you were then, Mark, like I did a few weeks ago. Okay, so we asked them to share their stories, including the highs, the lows, and what they've learned along the way. Our aim is to provide some fundamental insights for you, our loyal listener. If you'd like to share your story in a similar way, please do get in touch with Mark or myself.
Indeed. Now, this podcast is sponsored by Pinnacle, a trusted outsourcing partner with over 100 clients in the UK and Ireland. Pinnacle's CEO, Mayank Pandya, is a chartered accountant based in London, and he has a passion to encourage innovation and excellence in the accounting profession. Pinnacle has offices in the UK and offshore delivery centres across India, employing over 250 high-quality staff. With a strong focus on quality assurance, Pinnacle has helped many UK accounting firms to scale their capacity and operations. To find out more, please visit www.pinnacleoutsourcingsolutions.co.uk. You'll also find the link online wherever you're listening to this podcast.
Brilliant. You do that so well, Mark. Okay, so who are we talking to today? So today we are delighted to introduce Gareth Burton, who is the founder of Progress Accountants. He set this up in 2017 alongside his award-winning pension audit and assurance practice. Gareth describes Progress Accountants as an innovative management accounting solution and advisory service. His focus in the accountancy practice is to ensure that clients have efficient record keeping, daily bookkeeping, and forward-looking financial information.
Welcome, Gareth. Is there anything else you'd like to add by way of introduction to explain how you come to be there?
Well, first I'd like to say thanks, Philippa. Thanks, Mark, for having me here today. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate this opportunity to share my story. So I created Assure UK, which, as you say, is a specialist pension audit practice in 2003 after Anson's transaction with Deloitte. And after 5 years, I never thought I was getting the proactive advice I needed from my accountant. I kept changing accountants. Then in June 2017, I gave up asking for help and created Progress Accountants to guide clients like me and help them progress.
Nice.
Oh, love it. That's why it's progress. Yeah, very good.
It's fun. But, yeah.
That's
well,
brilliant.
as you know, we aim to keep the podcast around 30 minutes, and we do that by focusing around a few key questions. And to an extent, you've answered the combination question, what attracted you to start your own practice. So maybe focus on how did you go about starting Progress Accountants?
How did I go about starting Progress Accountants? Well, I suppose the first thing is you start by going to the Institute of Chartered Accountants or whichever governing body you go with and just say, how do I set up a practice and follow all their forms to get you going, which again, if you are setting up your own practice, I'd make sure you give enough time to do that a bit of the exercise, because it takes a little bit longer than you first expect. So it can be a bit of a delay to the process. One thing I would say is about finding a coach to show you the shortcuts. Assure UK, it was 2020 Group that I found in John Nyland, who was very helpful getting me across those first 2 years when
Just to clarify, John Nyland is separate to the 2020 Group.
Yes, he is. Yes, yeah. It was 2020 Innovation, and then I found another coach called John Nyland, who helped consultants like me go from a startup to a surviving business, which in those first 2 years it is so difficult, and you need help and you need guidance, I would say. And then Progress Accountants has been a similar sort of thing. I would say find a coach to help you get off the ground. And again, that's where Philippa and I cross paths and we've worked together.
Love it. And coincidentally, I worked with John Nyland about 18 years ago as well. He's not an accountancy focused coach, but he's very good. And just to clarify, I don't work with startup practices. So.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's a lot of hard work. We need a lot of guidance.
Yeah.
Getting those first couple £100,000 worth of turnover is hard work. There's a lot to learn.
How did you
I think
get
it
those?
says.
How
Sorry.
did you get your first clients then?
The first few clients. Well, the one thing I realised after about 2 months of desperately trying to get clients, I realised it was time to write a business plan. I hadn't actually written a business plan, which, as an accountant, major faux pas, and went to one of the many networking events I attended during my first 12 months. And they gave me a lovely business planning template, which I'd recommend anybody creates before they start their own business. And being an engineer, I love my reports. I created a lovely 40-page report. I got to a section called sales and marketing, and it seemed a little bit skimpy to me. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. Skimpy. There was a lack of. I don't know why I'm laughing, because it's created a lot of pain. And for anybody in that first period, I appreciate your pain you're going through, but I appreciated that I had no way of gathering leads. I used to work for a big practice, so leads would come to you. They're really partly qualified before they even get to you. Some of them really don't even have a decision on who to go. You put your proposition to place to them, and they sign up. It was quite easy, really. Suddenly you are this one-man startup, and it's like, well, who's going to appoint me? So it was a question of looking at who had I worked with in the past, and actually just contacting them and consistently contacting them, saying, look, I'm out of here. We're a specialist pension scheme auditor. Would you like to work with us?
Yeah.
And that was a sure. What
That was
about?
a sure. Yeah. So Progress had Plan B. Obviously, it had one big client already and Assure UK to kick it off. I then decided the one learning that I made when I created Assure UK was to get your first 20 clients is a lot of hard work, takes a lot of time. And I thought, actually, if I ever did this again, I would buy a practice.
Yeah.
That's not quite as good as I first thought. You buy. I wanted people that were, paperless. Assure UK is a paperless business. We've been paperless for years, and suddenly I bought a small practice, and they weren't paperless. They were used to meeting their accountant face to face. They basically did everything I didn't want them to do. I didn't want them to be paper based. I didn't want them to be so face to face. I wanted to do electronic signatures, which I didn't do. So we've spent a lot of time re-educating, or in some cases moving clients on. And I also bought the practice right at the beginning of COVID.
Oh.
Yeah. So it wasn't the best acquisition time. There was a lot of things that went against me with this first acquisition. A lot of the clients have stayed with us now. I'd say about 90%. No, I'd say a bit smaller actually. About 80% of the clients have stayed with us, and we're in the process of actually moving them to a cloud-based system, which is a lot slower than I imagined. Honestly, a lot slower.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I know you a little bit now, Gareth, obviously, and you're into all of the new stuff, and you're very curious, and you love innovation, and you love all the tech and that sort of thing. But you're also, with that, I guess, goes spontaneity, doesn't it? So when I hear your story, it's like, I couldn't find the one I wanted, so I set up my own, and then I decided to buy this practice, and then I realised that they weren't paperless. So you've got quite a lot of energy there and sort of spontaneity, which at times is great, I suppose, but then can bite you in the bum at times.
I'm the ideas guy, Philippa. I basically create the ideas. I create the craziness. I listen to what my team say, because it's not just my ideas. It's my ideas, my team as well. And then we figure out the best way forward. And sometimes a lot of my team have inherited the problems that I've created. So on Progress, we've got a new team now. Got a great accountant there leading it up, Lee Rogers. Highly recommend Lee. We've just found a great administrator to help with all the processing. We found another great accountant, Jackie, to assist Lee. And we're just in the process of recruiting another accountant. So it's all about hiring the right people. And if they don't fit and they don't perform, then just moving them on, really.
Yeah. So it sounds really like you're accelerating, because I mean these new people, they weren't around when we worked together,
Yeah,
and that wasn't
no,
long ago. So you've obviously learned stuff at the beginning of COVID, as you said, but that
yeah.
now you're accelerating. So what have you learned?
We've what have we learned? We've re-engineered the marketing of what we're doing, and more of a focus on our ideal client and what we're looking for. Yeah,
Woohoo!
20 years ago when I set up Assure UK, Chris Friedrichsen from 2020 Group was telling accountants that time, you need to have a niche. Yeah. And he was very passionate about you have a niche. And I was like, what do you mean you need to have a niche? I'm a specialist bench scheme auditor. We do two things really. It's a very niche practice we've got. You either want us or you don't want us. We're very much yes or no. Can Assure UK help you with a tax return? No. Can we do company accounts? No. There's a load of things that we don't do. There's a couple of things that we do better than most people, and that's on the auditing side, and on the assurance reporting side. So it was never a problem in the past. With Progress, we bought a whole bunch of clients, and it was like tax return clients. We see them once a year. Is that the type of client I want? Is that the relationship that I want to have? Is it the monthly recurring revenue? So actually, it makes the business sustainable. Or does it create peaks and troughs in your cash flow? And actually, that's not how you want to start a business. The amount of capital it takes to build up an audit practice is pretty phenomenal. Whereas if you set your accounting practice up based on monthly recurring revenue, it's a much better and safer business model, I would say.
Gareth, tell us a little bit, without sort of, I just want to understand, or get the listeners to understand, this kind of niching kind of discussion that you had, because it wasn't necessarily an easy conversation, because you all had slightly different ideas about where it could go. So help other listeners to understand just exactly what the sort of difficulties had been, what the conversations were, and sort of how you got through that. And I'm not looking for, specifics about me, but just, what were those kind of knotty conversations that you'd had?
So, we obviously we review certain key performance indicators. So you'd like to see the number of prospects you've got increase, and we can see that on the Assure UK side, that's growing every week. On Progress Accountants, it was we'd stopped. Yet the market for Progress should be way bigger. And spoke to the marketing team saying, well, why isn't our list of prospects actually growing? And they said, well, we don't know who to target. There's actually too many targets. So that the conversation is, well, who do we want? What is our ideal check? What we'd like a client to pay us? What's the minimum check that we want? So we're actually not going to work with any client that pays us less than that, because we're trying to create we're not just trying to do accounts. We want to create an experience, and create an experience that they're going to enjoy, and that costs money. And also, what is your dream check or maximum check you can actually cope with? Because when you've got a team of 4 or 5 people, if £500,000 worth of business comes through the door, which it did, you can't deal with it. So you've got to say, no, it's not for us, but I know another accountant that can help you. Good for that other accountant. But sometimes you've got to know to say what to say yes to and what to say no to. And if you've got no idea what type of accountant you want to, or what type of client you would like to work with, then you have got a problem. And, I would like to see a persona of what the person looks like, probably a male and a female. I would like to see what age they are. I'd like to have an idea of, well, where do I find them? If we're looking to, another marketing bit we do is trying to find trainees. We are recruiting. I can't see much point looking on LinkedIn for trainees. They're already in a contract. But as my daughter told me a few months ago, I'd like to go to Birmingham University. Why would you like to go to Birmingham University? I saw it on TikTok. Really? So it's like, we've got to make sure we market where our targets are and
Absolutely.
know who are. Yes?
Yeah.
Gareth, your hat is getting some love, just so you know.
Yeah. think that is so important. And when I talk about using LinkedIn or other social media with accountants, I always say you use the platforms where your target audience are. And Facebook previously, TikTok probably now, are certainly good for attracting the junior staff and trainees, or for potentially, not necessarily attracting, potentially reaching them in a way that LinkedIn probably won't.
Yeah, I think Paul Dono said the same thing. His daughter came into the business and instantly they did TikTok and stuff, and it really helped the recruitment process.
It's also sorry, I'll let you continue. My little thoughts got passed me by there.
It happens to the best of us.
You've already mentioned a couple of the mistakes that you made in the past and how you learned from them and corrected them. And I was particularly taken by your reference to your business plan, which many accountants will start off with just sort of hopes and goals and dreams. The great thing you said was you're going through it, you got to the marketing and sales and marketing bit, and you used the bikini word.
Right.
But it was skimpy, which is the only other time I've heard that word, that adjective used. Maybe that says something about me. I apologise. But it was recognising early on that you needed to put time and effort into that. Just having a practice of saying "I'm here" isn't enough. So what did you fill that out with, and in order to attract?
I think it was finding. I think it was about what did I fill it out with? So it was learning different ways to. It was time for basics to start off with. Understanding the client journey. That's an important one. And I remember John Norland had this analogy, and he said, just imagine your prospects are on one side of the bank of a river, and you're on the other side. And he said, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get your prospects to your side of the bank, and if you put not enough stones in the river for them to cross, then they'll fall in and you'll lose them. If you put the right amount, then they'll just walk across the river and they'll find you each time. And if you put too many rocks in the river, then basically they'll lose you along the journey. They'll go somewhere else. And understanding that client journey of how people find you and how many times they need to listen, hear you speak before they actually do business with you is an important bit. And there's a difference. Like Philippa, I think we just did business together quite quickly, whereas other people will have to hear from you from others before they'll use your services. And it's understanding, well, has this guy come from me he's just looked on LinkedIn, he's found me on LinkedIn, read something that he likes, and he's talking to me, or has he spoken to 3 friends? So he's done his due diligence on me. It's then really a question of, can I help him and what's the price? So, understanding the client journey is an important part. So on the marketing side, we've done absolute stacks. On the sales side, it's about, again, how do you sell? There's a sales process that people go through, and making sure that, when you get an inquiry, respond to it quickly. Do not take a week to actually respond to a sales inquiry on the day. At least acknowledge it and say, thank you for your inquiry. Would love to help you. Even as you speak to people, how's business? Business is good and we're looking for more.
You got that from Chris.
That's 2020, that is, yeah. But it's like never talk about, I'm really busy at the moment. Got so much work on my shoulders. I'm not sure how to cope with it. No, it's, talk about, I've just been playing golf. I've been talking about playing golf because we've got a well-resourced practice. And that means that it gives me freedom to go and do whatever I want to do. But if we need more people, and again, we spoke about business plans there. We do annual business planning, we do monthly business planning, quarterly business planning. Every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock, we do a review of our 3 main projects. Where are we? How are they progressing? Another accountant used the phrase that you can tell when your when your business is in a good place, it has a good rhythm to it. You've got to pick up certain good habits. Your weekly planning, daily planning, even. It sounds like you plan all the time. You don't actually do any work, but daily planning, weekly planning, quarterly planning, annual planning, and just make sure those things in place. And we know our 5 priorities for the year. We know our big, hairy, audacious goal. And again, from this point, I know we've got one more thing to do, and I think that might even be done. I just need to check to make sure it's actually working. So it's having a plan, working to the plan, and sticking to the plan.
Yeah, and I mean, some of it is so simple, though, isn't it? That in the sense that, there's no kind of mystery, but it's having that plan, letting everybody know about it, and input as well, so that the plan is rolling, but people know where they're going, and that's really important, I think.
Sorry, go on, Gareth, and then I'll ask my question.
So you mentioned about the plan there. So one of the things we've done this year is we've had to move office. Our office was just too. It was too. It was at capacity. We needed to move. We could see what's coming through our pipeline. We needed a bigger office, and my team found a new office. They checked in with a few things, and they said, "Oh, would you do an office over multiple levels?" No, I want one office, and it has to be one level. I want everybody on the same thing, because it just aids communication if everybody's on the same floor. And while we can be on one floor, why not be on one floor? It creates a good culture as well. So 100%. The team didn't need to check with me about this. They actually found the office and said, "This is the right one." We checked the financials with the finance guy. It's it makes the business run very, very smoothly.
And some of the things you just talked about there are sort of the converse of mistakes, because you're highlighting what you've done, perhaps having made mistakes with them previously. Just worth sharing with the audience. How big is the team now?
So Assure UK and Progress accountants have got 21 at the moment. We will have.
So that's across the two of them together, is it?
So Progress has got 3 people working for them, and then 18 for Assure UK.
Yeah.
One of the questions is, what makes you unique, or what makes Progress unique? You can answer that separately. But from what I'm hearing, you're empowering people, and you're enabling people to make those decisions and to find the office, and etc., when a lot of the people that we have interviewed before have been really involved, they've too involved, and they've found that kind of family members or whatever have tried to sort of kick them out a little bit because they're getting in the way, that in the sense that there can't just be one person. So I like the way that you're kind of distancing yourself in a way to enable other people to take the reins.
Yeah, one of the things that we've created this year is a growth lab team. We've implemented the entrepreneurial operating system. So and by doing that, we have weekly meetings, and it keeps everybody on the same page. Everybody's got their main rocks to focus on. They've got their to-dos. They know what our issues are. They're empowered. One of my team said to me a couple of years ago, he said, "Gareth, the reason why I like working here and why I stay is because you listen to me. You take in my ideas and you let me do them." Whereas, he came from a much bigger firm, and he just said, didn't feel listened to. You'd say something, but the ideas were never taken forward. And, I would like to, and I would say, like our first annual planning meeting this year, where we put forward our big rocks, it came out with, I think I had like 7 of them. And somebody said, "Gareth, none of your ideas have gone through." It doesn't matter whose idea they are. Let's take the 5 or 7 best ideas through, and let's implement those. It doesn't matter whose idea it is. It's the best idea that wins the day.
Well, I think that's definitely another secret to your success.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, it's this innovation, this curiosity, that ability to listen and be able. I mean, the spontaneity doesn't necessarily fit that well with the planning, but I think it's the ability to say, "That sounds like a good idea," go forth, which I love, I think. Yeah.
And I think the business has changed, when it was the early days and it was just me, whereas now it's more of a consultative process. So I'll come back and I'll say, "Look, I've got this idea. What do you think? What do you think?" One of the things we're going to run out is Copilot. on our email. I heard something in Nashville, and I thought that's a great idea. Why aren't we doing that? And but we'll go through a consultation next time.
Is that Microsoft Copilot or Sage Copilot?
Yeah. It's Microsoft Copilot. Yes.
Yeah.
And again, it's something that we'll, I'll bring an idea to the team, and it's like, well, why are we doing this? And we'll see a demo of it, and then we'll test it, and then we'll run it out in a safe environment. But yeah.
And how do you stop being a nightmare then? Because, and I mean this in the best possible way, but there are so many kind of dynamic leaders out there, and I've been, I've reported into them before.
Yeah.
What you do is listen as well. It's all very well to have somebody who comes up with all of these ideas, and everybody's running around like maniacs. But it sounds to me though that you come with ideas, but you're able to sort of talk to the team and kind of implement it or not, depending on what other people think, and that's a big skill, I think.
I think it's because I'm not involved in day-to-day activities. I've removed myself as much as I can do from the process. So from the sales process, from the delivery process, I'm as well removed from it as I can be without being completely removed at the moment. So they've taken the crazy maker out of the juice, if that makes sense. And it's when you're there day to day, you think, we could definitely do that better. Well, they thought about doing this with whatever it is. Whereas at the moment, it's they're there to, and it's more of a consultative way that we do stuff. We do quarterly meetings. We've just had one in London, and we broke the team into 4 groups, and we looked at 4 separate processes and said, well, let's look at this process. What's worked? What hasn't worked? If we did it again, what could we do differently? Now, what's the process going to be going forward? And that's great thinking, and it's team thinking. It's not my thinking. It's like there are some hidden bits in it. I can see bits where it's not quite working perfectly. How can the team identify where it's not? And it may be somewhere that I haven't identified. I can think something's not working, but the team needs to call it out because they experience it on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very much.
I'd love to have been a fly on the wall for that one. Definitely. Yeah. So from that perspective, we say that again, Mark.
We're coming up on time, sadly.
We are. I just we're finishing on a really good point though. I haven't heard that sort of approach before, not in some of our conversations, so I think that's a real takeout for me. Just empowering, but having those techniques to empower people. So that is a brilliant kind of idea to finish on. But as always, sadly, we've sort of come to the end of the 30 minutes. But I'm sure there are lots of people who are inspired from listening to this. So how can they get in touch with either you or Lee and Progress Accountants more generally? Give us some details.
Yeah, so probably the best way to get in contact with me is to find me on LinkedIn, Gareth Burton, just simply Gareth Burton. You'll see Specialist Pension Scheme Auditor. And if you want to get in contact with Lee, then probably the best way to do it would be to visit the website. So progressaccountants.com. And
awesome.
And, happy to answer any questions you've got. And if you want a copy of my amazing business plan template, then you're more than welcome to just contact me on LinkedIn, send me a message, and I'll send you through the template. I hope it helps you too. How's that? Thanks, Philippa.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Mark. Much appreciated.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much, Gareth. Philippa, how can listeners find out more about you and Insight 101?
Yeah, so I support accountants and bookkeepers to stand out so that they can create a brand story in marketing that attracts and inspires their ideal client, ensuring that they have a future that they want whilst adding value to their clients along the way. And you can find me on LinkedIn or on my website, www.insight101.co.uk. And Mark, how can listeners find out more about you and your Soul Practice Club?
Well, thank you. Online everywhere. I'm bookmarklee.co.uk website, on LinkedIn as well. Mark Lee FCA is the other way to find me there. To distinguish me from 5,000 other LinkedIn profiles with whom I share my name. I tend to support accountants who are the sole decision makers for their practice and feeling perhaps isolated, frustrated, overwhelmed. Some want one-to-one mentoring. Some appreciate the camaraderie and support from my Soul Practice Club, and the odd one or two want both.
Great. So just before we go, our thanks again to the sponsor of this episode, Pinnacle Global Group, your trusted outsourcing partner. Do check out their website and let their CEO, Mayank Pandya, know you heard about Pinnacle Global on the Accountant Success Secrets podcast. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please share the love online, subscribe, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. And let us have your feedback directly too.
Absolutely. It all helps to potentially broaden the reach of the podcast. And do please contact either Philippa or myself if you'd like to be interviewed on a future episode, or if there's someone you'd like to recommend we interview. And rather excitingly, we've only got 1 or 2 dates left to fill before Christmas, which is just astonishing. So we'll be shortly starting into the new year. Wonderful. Thanks again, Gareth, and to our brilliant co-host, Philippa. Until next time on the Accountant Success Secrets podcast, or anywhere else that we might meet online or in real life. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.